All right. So if you're selling on Amazon, you probably know that PPC is the best way to drive sales, and it's white hat, and it's going to keep your account safe. And so Amazon becoming more and more of a pay to play platform, I thought it'd be very helpful to bring on my good friend Mina Elias from Trivium. And Trivium is a PPC management agency. So Mina, I should actually say welcome back to the Maximizing E-commerce podcast.
Yes, welcome back, because this is what, my second or third time here.
Well, it's I think it's your second time on the podcast, and
And then
you've spoken at, like, I can't keep track of several of my summits in the past.
it's good. It's good. It's good. It's always been really, really great. I love it. I'm glad to be back on the podcast.
Yes, glad to have you back. So the last time you were on the podcast, I think I introduced you as Mina Elias from, like, basically your supplements company.
Brand. Yeah.
Your supplements brand. So you've kind of pivoted. So just real quick, give everybody the quick snapshot of who you are and how you got to this place now.
Perfect. So the quick summary, I was I was a chemical engineer and chemist. I worked in corporate 9 to 5, hated it, and decided that I was sick and tired of being someone else's kind of like slave or prisoner, and wanted to start my own thing. So I started a supplement brand for MMA fighters and competitive endurance athletes, because I was an MMA fighter. I've been fighting since 2013.
Are you
And
still fighting?
I'm no longer competing, just jiu-jitsu tournaments, but no longer like fighting. It requires so much preparation and I mean, like, I don't know. I'm just I don't want to dedicate the time.
But you're still doing jiu-jitsu tournaments. I mean, that's still rolling around and fighting
Yeah,
people.
but it's not the same with like MMA. You gotta like lose like 10 pounds the night before, and like, yeah, you got to do weight cuts, and it's really a lot of intense training, and everyone going in there, like, I don't know, they're going really hard. With the jiu-jitsu tournament, you go and you basically like compete with 3 or 4 people, and you have a good time, even if you win or lose. It's still cool to compete.
Yeah.
And you test your skills, but it's not like as serious. And I think my coaches would hate me if I was like just fighting MMA and not taking it seriously.
Gotcha.
So
Okay, so you're doing the MMA stuff.
yeah, and I created the supplement brand. I didn't know how to sell it. So after getting rejected many times by gyms and stores, I figured I'm gonna get it on Amazon, because that's where I buy all of my stuff. I was able to get it on Amazon, and then I like became obsessed with how to make Amazon work. And so I dug deep, watched every single video out there, read every single article, talked to people, was in the Facebook groups. Unfortunately, there was no PPC mastery summits or brand mastery summits, so my education wasn't that great. But anyways, I was able to grow the brand to over $1 million a year in revenue. And from there, I started sharing all of the knowledge that I gained about PPC on podcasts and on the Facebook groups and stuff like that. My name got really big in the space, and an aggregator who had come up on the space raised a bunch of money, 300 million, I think, or something. They hit me up and they said, we want to hire you as a consultant to show our team how to do PPC and all this stuff. And none of their team was like people that have built brands before. They were a lot of them were kind of like PNG style type people. So I said, that's
P&G,
cool.
just make sure everyone understands what that means.
Procter and Gamble. Basically, they're aggregators of like traditional businesses like Nestle and Unilever and like that, that kind of
like
aggregator.
big brands.
Yeah. So they knew how to operate as an aggregator, but they didn't know Amazon stuff. And so they're like, we'll bring people who know how to do this business, but we'll just teach them the Amazon stuff. And so they said, we want to test you to see if you're actually good and you know what you're talking about. So we're going to give you a brand to run, and we'll get back to you. So they gave me a brand to run. And then 3 or 4 months later, they said, we were actually testing 6 other agencies, and they showed me like this spreadsheet and of my performance versus everyone else. And they said, you beat them all out. So we're going to give you the rest of the project. Please go ahead, train our team, all of this stuff. I ended up, doing it. And then I realized like, this is a huge thing. Like, I beat out so many other agencies, and I actually enjoyed doing it. I was always very, very, very.
And you weren't even an agency at the time.
No, I wasn't an agent. It was just me and Yeah, it was just me and my PPC employee who I had trained to run my PPC, and another girl who was like an analyst type of person. She would do like a lot of like reporting stuff, and so that it was just the three of us. And you know, at that time I was like, okay, we'll do it. It's not going to take that much time out of my day to do it, and it worked out amazing. And I'm like, you know what? It was more money than anything like for the hours put in that I've ever done. It was pretty easy, and it seems like I can add value more than 99% of the people out there. So it's not like I was a supplement brand where I was an electrolyte powder that was better than, you know, a lot of people, but not like the best, and didn't have the best graphics and best marketing, all this stuff. But as a PPC agency, I could look you in the eye and say like, dude, like I can help you. I can 100%, I can help you. Like whatever you're doing now, I can definitely like, you know, make it 10 times better, and you'll be happier. And so having that confidence, I'm like, okay, like let's do this. And there was a couple of friends that always kept asking me to run their brands, and I always refused because I didn't want to be an agency. So I said, okay, guys, like I'm happy to try it. I took them on, you know, for like minimal amount of money, and very quickly grew their brands, and they were like shocked. And then they're like, dude, like I don't know how you're doing this, but this is like the best numbers we've ever had. And I said, yeah, I just have a really good system, and a good, you know, good people, and I do this like religiously. So I started taking on more and more clients and word of mouth. And then I said, okay, you know, people would see me in conferences and say, Mina, man, like thank you so much. I listened to your podcast. I listened to your webinar, and you added so much value, and it changed my strategy. I just wish that you had an agency so I could hire you. And I said, okay, I guess it's time to let everyone know that I do. And so I started, you know, talking about it more and more and more. And in that year, from 2021, when we announced or when I created the agency and we announced that we're taking on clients, till now, we've grown from 3 people to 35 people. We've grown 500% to date. We've grown 500% year over year. Could be more by the end of the year. We're still only in August. So it's been amazing. And I've been just doing my best to add the most amount of value to people. And number one, like I'm putting out as much free resources as possible. I want you to do it yourself and not have to pay me, but I want you to come to pay me because for the work that's being done, it makes sense on an hour, like hour for hour basis. So in-house, you can't compete with me. Yourself, you can't compete with me efficiency wise or anything. And what I mean by that is I've built every client gets a team of 5 people that are working religiously. And so like if you try to build that in-house division, it doesn't make any sense. But I build it and I share it between 6 or 7 clients, and so it makes sense financially. And they're trained to do everything super efficient. And I'm always investing in tools. We're really heavily investing in like a software that's going to do custom analytics for us and all of this stuff, just so you are more empowered as a person. So that's like where I'm really genuinely trying to say, like, if you pay me that money, you will get, 10 times back that money in terms of like service and information and all of this stuff. And that's it. That's what I've been working on. And I'm also like constantly coming up with new resources. Like we're coming up with like a pricing strategy sheet. We're coming up with, we're working with some people to create like a creative optimization sheet, an SEO optimization sheet, all of these things and videos and stuff like that. So that even if you don't want to hire us, we give you so much stuff that we're hoping that you can graduate. I'm building right now. It's probably going to be out by the time you announce this, but we're doing like for the people that are like, let's say like $5,000 in revenue and to let's say 30 and can't afford to hire an agency. And we probably will say like, no, I'd rather you not spend the money on an agency and lose so much profits. We built that perfect in-between thing, which is like a paid like Slack consulting, where you come in, there's a channel for like every single piece of your business: inventory, sourcing, inspection, supply chain, PPC, DSP, listing optimization, all this stuff. All of my team will be in there to consult. I will be in there. I'm bringing consultants in there to consult. And for anything that we're not an expert in, like sourcing, we're going to have Kian, sourcing by Kian, in there. So his team can answer all the sourcing questions. And it'll be like way cheaper, like $200 a month, and you get like unlimited monthly consulting. You can't hop on the phone, right? It'll be all through Slack, but like my goal is to get you from where you are to where you need to be, where it makes financial sense to you. So that's kind of like, I'm just pushing as much as I can to help people, and I know it'll come back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you've done quite a bit. So you were putting out like content related to PPC. You've spoken at the PPC and Brand Mastery Summit, which you thank you for the shout out there.
Yeah.
And so you've been helping people along the way. So, and I like that model of saying, you know, helping people, because not necessarily everyone can afford an agency. And I think that is one challenge sometimes, is there is a lot of advice out there that is really more geared towards, I think in some cases, even helping agencies more than helping sellers.
Yeah.
So for, let's say, a seller that's listening to this and maybe they're doing 100,000, $250,000 revenue, and they're trying to get their PPC dialed in. And I think that's probably a good chunk of Amazon sellers out there, especially people that are listening to content related to PPC. What might be some advice you would give them on how to, you know, do they, because let me take a step back.
The full strategy. I'll give you the full strategy.
Yes. And let me finish my question here real quick. And I think this is going to tie into your full strategy. Sometimes, and I see people do both strategies at once, where I saw someone talk all about how you cut your costs and how you cut your costs down, and someone else said, hey, here's how you scale, and then they do both at the same time.
Yeah, this concept is called trying to build muscle and lose fat at the same time, which we covered in the Brand Master Summit, which will cost you $9 if you wanna attend.
$7 if you catch this before the summit ends. So for people who want to listen to this in the future, get on the wait list for another summit.
I figured because of gas, you were increasing your prices, but okay, $7.
Maybe at some point I will.
$7. So okay, I'm gonna give the full strategy. You know, if you guys are listening to this, obviously follow along. I'm gonna make it as easy as possible to follow along. I want to start by saying that everything that I'm talking about is from what I've experienced and what I've tested. I strongly encourage you that anything that you learn from me to go test and validate yourself. This is not like the law or gospel or anything like that. Also, do not change more than one thing at a time, because you will not understand the effect of that change. So if I talk about restructuring your campaigns and increasing budgets and lowering bids, if you do all of these things, you will not know if it worked or if it didn't work. So please make sure that you only change one thing at a time. And it might take you 4 months to implement these changes, but after 4 months, I guarantee you're going to be in a 10 times better position than you are. So first things first, it starts with the analytics sheet. I will include a link for the template below. We're also very close to automating it. And if you do, I think it costs like something like $50 a month. But that's just the cost of like the software. But anyways, it's free. I'll send the link, fill it out. The reason is,
we'll include that in the show notes and the description on YouTube.
Yes. What the sheet looks like, it has, you know, PPC spend, PPC sales, total sales, you know, units, sessions, cost per session, click-through rate, conversion rate, cost per click, the Amazon price of your product, the fees, the cost of goods, and the profits, and the cost per acquisition blended. And it's broken up into like a week by week chunk, so that you can see as things change week over week, what's happened. That's the first part, because as you make changes, you need to understand what's happened. The second part of this is, so for example, like if you want to go from, you know, you want to increase your revenue, you're increasing your PPC spend, you're looking at your sessions. You want to see that week over week, your PPC spend went up and your sessions went up by somewhat a proportionally amount. Your conversion rate week over week hasn't changed by much. You look at your revenue week over week has gone up. Your profits probably went down because you're scaling, and so you're a little bit inefficient with the ads. Now, the fundamental concept of PPC is to drive traffic to your listing as cheap as possible. All PPC can do is bring people into your listing. All PPC can do is show your listing to people, so that they can literally only show your listing in the search results or in the product detail pages. That's all it can do. And You won't get charged for that, but you can create campaigns. You can monitor your impressions. The more impressions you get, it means that your campaigns are actually working and they're generating, people seeing them. And then based on your listing, your main image, this is the listing in the search, right? So it's like a bodybuilding show. If you take a screenshot of the search results, you can also take that screenshot, go to pickfood.com and say, which one would you pick and why? And if they constantly pick your competitors and say it has more reviews, this one looks shady, whatever, you can figure out why people aren't clicking on your listing. But it's basically your main image, your title, your reviews, your star rating. Do you have the Prime badge or not? Do you have the Amazon's Choice badge or not? Do you have coupons? When is it going to arrive? Today is August 2nd. If it says it's going to arrive August 15th, hell no, I'm not buying this product. I want it tomorrow in my house. And so that's kind of the first piece. Is you're creating campaigns and you're going to get impressions. And then from those impressions, if you have a desirable product to be clicked on with relevance to the impressions you're generating, right? Because you're targeting certain keywords we're assuming are related. Now, if you have an electrolyte powder and you're using keywords like protein powder and the product shows up in the protein category, no one's going to click on it. It's not a protein powder. So we're assuming that you're targeting relevant keywords, you're getting relevant impressions. Those a certain number of people are going to click on that listing. That's your click-through rate. And anything above a 0.2 click-through rate, in my opinion, 0.2% click-through rate, in my opinion, is low. You have an issue trying to lower your price or do something, see if that will trigger it. Again, I listed the factors that you can split test. Feel free to split test them and then understand which of those factors actually was causing the low click-through rate. After the click, you get sessions. Sessions are the unique Amazon accounts that come into your listing. The reason I follow sessions and not clicks is because you can have the same person, which generates only one session, click on multiple ads. Not the same ad multiple times, but he can look up electrolyte powder, sugar-free electrolyte powder, electrolyte supplement, and click on all of your ads, not maliciously. This is a regular browsing behavior.
Right.
Yeah, very, very normal. Also, if you have an organic listing and a sponsor product and a headline search ad, which is the pitfalls of using multiple ad types for the same keyword, that same person can click on those three, can click on your organic and those two ads. And at the end of the day, you only generated one session. So we're tracking the sessions that are coming into the listing. And then once the session are into the listing, you basically have your conversion rate. What portion of those sessions convert into a sale based on, what people are going to do is basically they're going to open up your listing and other people's listing. They're going to do a comparison. They're going to see which one is better. And then they're going to disqualify based on your main image, the rest of your images, your title, your bullet points, your price, your review, your star rating, if you're Prime or not, your enhanced brand content, your questions on the listing, if you have videos on the listing. So that's all of the components of the listing they're going to look at, and they're going to make an evaluation and say this is for me or this is not for me. Now, before I get deeper into the strategy of like tactically what to do, I want to say that if you have this sheet and you're using the numbers, you have a certain PPC spend, and based on that PPC spend, you have a certain number of sessions. So if you're spending $1,000 on PPC and you're getting 1,000 sessions, that's $1 per session. So that's your cost to bring one person into the listing. The second piece of the equation is your conversion rate. If you look at reports, business reports, detail page sales and traffic by parent or child ASIN, generally whatever structure you have, like if you're doing all of the ASINs in one campaign, then you would do parent. If you're doing the child ASINs in separate campaigns, then you do child. Whatever that unit session percentage is, 1 divided by that percent equals the number of sessions required to make a conversion. So if you have a 25% unit session percentage, 1 divided by 25% is 4. So you need 4 sessions to make a conversion. And if your cost per session is $1, 4 sessions to make conversion times $1 per session is $4 to make a conversion blended. We talk about blended numbers for me, in my opinion, because I've done things with PPC, increased the PPC spend and seen my organic sales go up. Why? There's no reason that organic should have improved if all I'm doing is touching the PPC. As a result, I've decided that the PPC attribution is incorrect on the Amazon platform. And so I'm just going to blend everything together, because as I use PPC to rank organically and do all of this stuff, I'm seeing that my total sales are improving. So I'm just looking at everything blended. Now, that $4 cost per acquisition, or cost to make one conversion, you know how much profit you have per unit before ads. It's your Amazon sale price minus your Amazon fees. So if it's $30, $10 Amazon fees, $10 cost of goods sold, you're left with $10 in profit. And that is your profit before running ads. If your $4 blended cost for conversion, you're now left with $6. I don't know what the number will be for you. If that number is like $1, $2, $3, that's too low, right? If that
so just time out real quick. So we're almost talking about like tacos. So I think the last couple of years, people have kind of gotten the sense of tacos where you got your total ACoS, which is kind of like blended is the word using here. But you're basically saying your blended cost per acquisition essentially across sales on Amazon.
Yes, your blended, if you take the profit after tacos. So if tacos is the basically your spend divided by your revenue. And so if you take your profit after tacos, so if you had a 50% profit margin, you took the tacos away, which is, let's say, 25%, you're left with 25% net profit after ads. That number, 25% of times your sale price, that is your cost of so that's your like profit after the conversion, after the ads, after the cost of conversion. So if that number, your profit after cost of conversion is too low, it's one of two things. Number one, your cost per session is too high, which means you're inefficient with your PPC, or you're not ranked enough organically, where you're spending so much on PPC and the organic is not helping, balance that out. Or number two, your conversion rate is very low. If your conversion rate is 5%, that means you need 20 sessions to make a conversion. And if you have a dollar cost per session, that's $20 to make a sale. If you have a $25 product, that's not going to work. So first of all, identify the two. Because it's going to make a huge difference if you tell me, Mina, my PPC is not working, and I say, okay, let's look at your numbers, and your cost of conversion is $18 for a $25 product, and your unit session percentage is 8%. And I'm going to be like, well, if your unit session percentage was 16%, yeah, maybe we can cut down your cost per session by 30%, and now you're in a beautiful state. But if you're coming to me with an 8% conversion rate, it's unworkable. You can't outrun it. We can't do anything. We're literally just bringing people into the listing. We can spend less and less and less money to bring those same people in. But at some point, you're going to hit a bottom, and because every 100 people that you're bringing in, only 8 of them want to buy. Your ads are not working. It's not feasible. It's not financially feasible for you. So that's the first part, right? That's like, first of all, we talk about our ads. Are they working? Are they working? Now, the second portion is the actual like tactical strategy.
Okay. Yes, because I was going to say, how are we influencing this? Because you're talking about algebra. The math is the same as a lot of the other stuff, but you're looking at different metrics to get to.
Yes, but I need you. Math. But I need everyone to look at those metrics, because as we take those actions, I'm going to say, based on this action, what happened to the metrics? And if you're taking actions and not looking at the right metrics, so if you're increasing your PPC spend by launching more campaigns, and you're only looking at your ACoS and your PPC revenue and not your sessions and not your conversion rate, then you have an incomplete picture. Then you're basically, you're trying to like bodybuild and you're lifting, but you're not looking at your sleep. Well, yeah, you're sleeping 3 hours a night. That's why you're not gaining any muscles, because that's when the muscles are built, when you sleep. And so I don't want you to just say, well, I spent 3 hours at the gym, like I should be bigger. Instead, look at the full equation, because when I explain it, it's all going to make sense. Now, the launch strategy, before the launch strategy, the goal for me is to test as many keywords as possible to see which ones work. The ones that work and are profitable and have a good, revenue and ACoS and all of this good stuff, I'm going to keep them. The ones that don't, I'm going to eliminate them. And so we talk about the bulking and cutting cycles in the Brand Master Summit, which is basically only do one of two things: either increase your revenue by launching more campaigns and doing all these actions that I'll cover in a second, or optimize for profit by eliminating anything that doesn't work. If you do the two, you'll cancel things out and you won't know what did what. So remember, one thing at a time, one goal at a time. Are we either increasing or are we cutting down? So now we start with the launch. So if anyone here hasn't launched yet or wants to understand the launch, the goal, I'm just trying to use 100% of my ads budget to test which keywords might work. So I'm usually launching 2 or 4 of the auto campaigns. The auto campaigns are close match, loose match, complements, and substitutes. If you are more conservative, you can do close match and substitutes only. If you have more money, you can do all 4 of them separated. They will scrape your Amazon listing to get keywords, launch them, and hopefully you're going to get data and understand which keywords are working, launch them in their own campaigns. Then I'm going to do some Helium 10 keyword research. I'm going to, use the main keyword, take the top 10 competitors, put them in Cerebro, add some filters. Like I want them to have at least 300 searches or more a month, maximum position 60, 7 or 8 ranking competitors to get like a very close intersection of the keywords between the product. And I'm going to take those keywords. I'm going to take the top, let's say 5, put 1 keyword per campaign, 1 broad, 1 phrase, 1 exact. So that's 15 campaigns. Those are to rank my product, and they're also very high velocity keywords. So they're basically like you're kickstarting your campaigns. Then I'm going to take a bunch of the low search volume keywords, maybe between 1,000 to 3,000, put 5 per campaign, broad, phrase, and exact, launch those in their own campaigns. Then I'm going to wait. Let's say I'm going to wait a week. Depends on how much money you're spending. If you're spending a lot of money, look at it more frequently. I'm going to wait in that week, and I'm going to, and the goal for the first month is to rank organically, but to scale. So I'm increasing my ad spend and I'm increasing my revenue. I'm monitoring my conversion rate to make sure that the conversion rate that I have is viable, that I'm okay. I'm driving traffic at a certain cost per session. It's a reasonable cost per session, but it's not like my conversion rate is fine. It's not like 2%. And I'm like, well, my Ecos is so high. Well, it's because no one wants to buy your product. So I go and I look at the search term report, and then I'm extracting any of the profitable keywords from the search term report, and I'm launching them in more campaigns on their own, as long as they're unique, as long as I'm not already targeting them in the existing campaigns. Each match type is different. I'm not only doing exact or only doing broad or only doing phrase. You have to think as exact and broad and phrase as like a combo pack. So an exact keyword is 1 keyword. A phrase keyword is like a 20-piece combo keyword, and a broad is like a 50-piece combo. So when you launch a phrase keyword, you're basically launching 20 keywords in 1 keyword, and Amazon is shuffling through the keywords. With broad, it's like 50, and Amazon's shuffling through the 50. So they're not really the same keyword. They're different keywords. One is a 50 pack, one is a 20 pack, one is actually just
because
one.
There's more
options,
possibilities,
yes,
the variations of that keyword.
Exactly.
If broad, because it could be in different orders and whatnot, and phrase, that's
exactly
that phrase, but with stuff before or after it.
Exactly. So I'm taking as many keywords as I can, launching them in more campaigns. And as I'm launching them in these campaigns, I'm monitoring my spend, and I hope that my spend is going up, my sessions are going up, because that's the actual measure that the ads are working. People are seeing the ads and they're clicking on them. My PPC is not supposed to convert into sales. My PPC is just supposed to bring people into the listing. So I'm tracking that. And I'm also keeping an eye out on my cost per session, because if it gets too crazy, that math equation won't work anymore. That cost per session is going to be too high for the number of conversions required to make a sale, that then I'm going to be too much of a loss, right? Initially, when you launch, you're going to be at a loss. So now, you've done that. It's time to jump into the cutting phase or the cleanup phase. We've launched a lot of campaigns. We've discovered a lot of keywords. Some of them are working, some of them are not. We have to take a certain number of actions to eliminate things that are not working. The first starts with going into the search term report for anything in auto, broad, and phrase, not exact, only auto, broad, and phrase. You're going to identify any keywords that have a high spend and no sales. For me, anything that's above 1.5 times my target cost per acquisition. So, or let me make it easier for you. If an acceptable ACOS for you is 50%, 50% of your sale price, let's say your $20 sale price is $10. If it spends more than $12 for me and or $15 and doesn't make any sales, then even if it made a sale on the 16th dollar, it's still going to be a 75% ACOS. So too high. So that's my threshold. I'll take any keyword that's generated that much in spend with no sales, add it as a negative. in the respect only in the respective ad group it's in, because it could perform well in a different campaign. Then anything that has a high ACOS, let's say 75% or more, I'm going to take that, add it as a negative. So now I've added the negatives. I move
Is
on
it negative exact or negative phrase?
Negative exact. I never use negative phrase unless it's for a term that's completely irrelevant. So the only time that I encountered this was I had a card holder. It's a credit card holder, and the keyword was vaccine card holder. And obviously my credit card holder will never be a vaccine card holder. So I took the keyword vaccine and I negative phrased it everywhere because there's no ever instance where the word vaccine ever applies. Other than that, and
for algorithms that are listening, we're just talking about for keywords for holders. We're not talking about medical advice here. There's no misinformation on this podcast.
There's no misinformation here. This is just the keyword.
Just the keyword.
Yeah, exactly. So auto broaden phrase, we're going to add negatives. Then you move on to, lowering the bids. So in any keyword where you feel like the whole keyword, the ACOS is just really high, or the spend is too high, or if it's an exact keyword or a product targeting keyword, you can lower the bid. And for those keywords, you lower the bid if again it's spending and not making any sales, or if it's too high. So all of the actions we're taking is to eliminate any of the spend that didn't generate positive revenue. We're also going to look at any bid by placements that we've done, if we've done them, and I'll talk about when we're going to do them. And if the ACOS doesn't look good, or the click-through rate doesn't look good or whatever, you can remove that bid by placement. And make sure that the budgets are big. I'll talk about the campaign structure I like to use. You make sure the budgets are big and you're controlling your spend based on a bid level. So now those are the cutting actions. So we've gone through a launch, we've gone through a cutting cycle, and now we're continuing to oscillate between bulking and cutting, and monitoring what's going on. So in bulking, we're extracting keywords from the search term report, launching those campaigns, increasing bids, increasing budgets, increasing bid by placement. So if you see that your top of search first page in your placement report for a certain campaign is performing better, it has a better ROAS, better click-through rate, you can add, let's say, like a 20% bid adjustment to spend up to 20% more to show up for that placement, because based on the data, you've performed better there. And then, like I said, in the cutting, you can remove it if it didn't work out. And so those are the actions. I didn't touch sponsored brand, display, and video. Sponsored brand and display and video and all that stuff. Initially, you should only, or I think you should only use it to protect your brand placement. Later on, we can talk about, how to use it. But for now, just focus on protecting your brand placement. That's it. And in those cycles, in the bulking cycle, what you're looking for is you launch campaigns, you increase your spend goes up week over week, your sessions go up week over week. Conversion rate stays the same, revenue goes up, profit might take a dip because some of the ads that you launched, the keywords didn't work out. They worked out when you took them from the search term report, they performed, but they no longer are performing. So that's in the bulking. And in the cutting, you're looking for your spend to go down, for your revenue to stay as close to the same as possible, for your sessions to go down slightly, for your cost per session to go down. That's the important one. Your cost per session is definitely going down. Your conversion rate is going up a little bit. And the main thing is that your profits are going up. So those are the two modes. And you're just constantly oscillating. And obviously in the Brand Mastery Summit, there's a much deeper talk about like all of the different actions and everything we do for the bulking and the cutting. But that's generally the strategy that I'm following for PPC. Just to say the final thing, the campaign structure that I like to use is one campaign, one ad group. So all of the budget flows to the ad group, and then up to maximum of 5 keywords, because I've seen when I put too many keywords, only a few of them at the top get the budget, and everyone else just doesn't really get the budget. So it's essentially as if they're not working in the campaign. So I'll turn them off, put them in a separate campaign. But that's the structure that I follow.
Got it. Okay. So one of the things you talked about, which I like the concept, was not testing too many things at once. I think we're all probably guilty, myself included, of that at times. How do you decide, like, how often are you going back and forth between cut, raise, cut, right? I mean, bulk and cut. So are you going back and forth like every time you go to optimize, like, oh, well, this is going to be more of a bulk optimize, this one's going to be more of a cutting optimize? or like, how do you decide that?
Yeah. So the bulk, I'll keep going as long as my profits can handle it, and as long as I'm not plateauing. So if I go from 100 to 300, 300 to 400, 400 to 600, 600 to 800, in weekly spend, I'm just looking for my sessions to keep going up in an equal proportion, not like increase my spend by 500% and my sessions go up by 12%. And as long as my revenue keeps growing and not plateauing, I'll keep bulking. And as long as I'm not like so down in the hole. Once I start feeling like a plateau, like I went from 800 to 1,000 in spend, and then my revenue kind of went up by $100, that's when I'll know, okay, it's time to give it a break and let's eliminate some of the wasted spend. And then I'll keep cutting until I notice that as I drop my ad spend, my revenue starts falling again, which means that I've cut so much that if I cut anything else, it's actually lowering the spend. Like, yes, you are cutting your spend. Sorry, it's lowering the sales. So yes, you are cutting your spend, but you're also just cutting your sales because that spend was generating good sales.
Got it. So how do you react then when, like, let's say things were going well and you were in the bulk phase, then all of a sudden different competitor, algorithm shifts, whatever, and now all of a sudden it's, or just, time periods, sometimes just 1 week to another, just customers just have a different mindset. So like, how do you optimize when you're not necessarily just going from bulk to cut, but then just something happens?
So if something happens, I just react to the data. So if week over week, let's say we're going through a bulk and then we notice that all of our revenue goes down, then it's like, okay, stop the bulk. Like let's get into a cut. Like we clearly we lost a lot of sales. Like let's go into a cut. If we're cutting and then we notice that our revenue starts growing, which is like, that's weird. Like I thought we were cutting.
Right.
It's like, okay,
let's
yeah, then we're like, okay, let's ride that wave very quickly. And so we're like, okay, switch from cutting, let's go to bulking and let's launch more campaigns. It seems like it might be a nice time right now to like catch some wind. So that's kind of how we look at it. And again, it's like we don't want to get stuck in the daily so micro. That's why I have the sheet as week with totals at the bottom. Because if you get stuck too much in the micro, it ends up becoming like you don't know, like it's like the scale. It's like when you step on the scale every day and it's like on Monday you're like 192 and on Tuesday you're 192.5 and Wednesday you're 191.8 and you're like, oh my god, like what's going on? And then if you're like, okay, let me just hop on the scale once a week every Monday, and then you're like, okay, now week over week you're seeing like those changes.
Right, you're looking at trends over time. Okay, so that's interesting. So one of the things I think that's also a little different for folks is the focus on sessions.
Yeah.
So you're really looking at it from the account level and deciding where to
go.
No,
on a product level.
On a product level. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So product level. So you're looking at a product level, because if you had one product per campaign, then you can kind of tie it all together. So you're really looking at, see, you can't get so granular in this case on how is this one keyword performing.
Yes, exactly. So you can if you want to, but usually like look at a trend of that keyword. So look at how a keyword will perform over time. And Amazon makes that easy. You can jump into a campaign and you can go into the ad group and you can type that keyword and then it'll show you only the results of that keyword. And you can then set a 60-day or 30-day, whatever date range. And you can see, okay, how has the spend changed? How has the impressions changed? How has the click-through rate changed? And you get all of that data on a trend line.
So this is one of the dangers, I think, for a lot of folks, is they get too much wrapped up in paralysis by analysis, and they're looking at keywords that have spent $8 over the last 60 days, and they're like super analyzing it. If you really look at it, like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Meaning, like, is it worth, some keywords are absolutely worth it to spend this much time looking into, but for a lot of folks, it doesn't make sense. So how do you know which keywords to kind of spend that much time on? Because I'm assuming if you're looking at all these accounts, you're not doing it on every keyword that you're bidding on.
Okay, very simple. I go into the bulk sheet and I'll do this equation, right? It's equals the sales of that keyword divided by the total sales for that product. So let's say I'm taking into account just this alkaline 88 bottle.
Mhm.
I'll go look at the key just for that product. Let's say the keyword is water bottle. I'll look at the sales from that water bottle keyword divided by the total sales. That will tell me the percentage of sales driven by that one keyword. And usually the high sales drivers are maybe 5 or 6 keywords. They generate 60, 70. I think it's like around like 10 to 20 keywords generate 80 to 90% of all the sales for the product.
So you're looking at percentage of total sales driven by
No,
paid.
no, percentage of PPC sales because we don't have,
Oh,
we don't
okay.
know.
PPC sales.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because it's inside of the bulk sheet, so we only
Yep.
see PPC sales. We don't know what keywords drove total
Right,
sales.
right. That yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense because you're looking
So,
at it from PPC percentages.
and those are the keywords that I dig deep in, that I really, really
Okay.
monitor. And I'm like, okay, let's take that one keyword
Sure.
that is driving 7, 8, 10% of our sales, that has an 85% ACOS. Let me see what happens on my analytics sheet if I increase that bid even more, right? Let it be not profitable. Let's see what happens. Then I go watch the analytics sheet and I watch it go from, $500 a week in spend to $700 a week in spend. And I noticed that my sales even grew even more. And I'm like, wow, like that's a keyword I can continue to run at a loss. So in all of my other keywords, my criteria might be 50%, but ACOS for that keyword, maybe it's 110%. If it gets over 110%, maybe that's crazy. It's a little bit spending a little bit too much.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So if folks wanted to get this analytics sheets or follow you more or learn more, where would they go?
Analytics sheet, they'll get it here in the show notes.
Okay.
Message me anytime. I'm gonna try and put it somewhere on my website. Like I want to have like triviumco.com/tools, and then you just have everything like my bulk sheet optimization spreadsheet, my like just everything that I have, like all of my tools, this analytics sheet,
So
all of this stuff.
today, if someone went to triviumco.com/tools, would they be able to get this, or is this coming soon?
This coming soon. Just message me, and I'll give you the sheet. That's, I guess, the best way to do it.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Okay. And we'll have a link as well for now. And then if somebody was interested in working with you, where would they go?
Triviumco.com. We offer an audit. So if you want to just fill out the form, you'll get a free audit. We'll do like someone from the team will run through all of your campaigns and explain exactly where there's opportunities for improvement and how to implement. So not just like, hey, you have an issue here, but this is what you should do to improve. And we even go into like the search term report and everything in the bulk sheet. So a lot of good insights in the audit. Feel free to fill it out, and then we'll get it. And if you want to work with us further, then we'll take the conversation from there.
Awesome. I'll have a link to all that down below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening to the audio podcast, it'll be in the show notes. So yeah, so this is interesting. This is interesting. So you got my mind thinking on, just different dimensions. And that's one of the things I think is interesting about PPC is that really what it comes down to is we're looking at a lot of the same numbers, but we're just playing with the algebra. So if people think back to 8th grade algebra, you move variables around. We're moving variables around, and sometimes you get a completely different picture if you just take this divided by that, and it gives you a different ratio that you hadn't thought of. So you've got some different ways of looking at it, and I think that's interesting. So definitely recommend folks follow you more as well. And I think you're getting to be the Amazon king of Instagram. What do they call them? Reels?
The Instagram reels. Yeah, I am pumping out one reel a day. So
I can't go on Instagram and look at my suggestions and not see
my face, my beautiful face.
Mina's beautiful face. Nice.
I don't know if that's a good or bad thing for you.
I think it's a good thing. I think it's
okay.
All right, my friend. All right. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing just different ways of looking at the data. And I think the more we get into not getting paralysis by analysis, which we got to be careful of, but looking at things from different angles and getting different perspectives, I think is always a good thing. And thank you for being part of the Brand Master Summit as well.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, guys. $7. Spend it.
If you're listening to this before the summit has ended, otherwise you can get on the wait list for a future summit. But anyway, this was great. Thank you so much, Mina.
Thank you, guys.